In Umuoha's early morning sunrise, Amara swept the compound of Michael, a big trader. Her small body moved fast, broom scratching the ground, as the sweet smell of egusi soup came from the kitchen. Joy, Michael's proud wife, stood at the door, her voice hard. "Don't touch our food, Amara. You get only scraps." The children laughed, throwing leftovers into the dirt while Amara's belly rumbled. She nodded quietly, eyes down. All day, she washed, cooked, and looked after the children, her hands always busy. But nobody gave her a proper plate. At night, when the family slept, Amara wrapped her small food, bits of yam, a little cold soup, in a banana leaf. Under the moon, she tiptoed from the compound, her bare feet quiet on the path to the forest. Crickets sang as she walked to an old iroko tree, its roots twisting like strong fingers. Kneeling, she whispered a prayer, her voice soft like breeze. The air felt heavy, like it was watching. Who was she feeding in the dark? And why did the ground hum under her hands? By the iroko tree, Amara dug a small hole with her fingers. Moonlight touched her face as she placed her leaf-wrapped food in the ground, saying, "For those who are hungry." Her words were a prayer, quiet and strong. As she covered the hole, a soft light blinked from the roots, like fireflies dancing in secret. The forest went still, leaves moved with no wind. Amara stood, her wooden bowl empty, and walked back to Umuoha. Someone hid behind a big baobab, watching her. It was Mama Nkechi, the nosy neighbor, her heart beating fast with fear. She had followed Amara, wondering about the girl's night walks. Why was this orphan bearing food when her own belly was empty? Mama Nkechi's head filled with talk of juju. She ran home, her wrapper flapping, ready to tell everyone. By morning, Umuoha would talk plenty. Amara, not knowing, went back to her mat in the small hut behind Michael's house. As she slept, the iroko's light blinked again, like the ground was waking up. Morning came, and Mama Nkechi didn't waste time. She stood at Joy's gate, shouting, "I saw your maid last night, giving food to the ground under that iroko tree." Joy's eyes turned sharp, her mouth tight. She called Amara, who stood quietly, hands together. "Is this true? You doing juju in my house?" she barked. The children laughed, watching from the door. Amara's voice was soft, her eyes steady. "If being kind is juju, then I'm guilty." Her words hung there, bold but gentle, making Joy's face twist. Joy stormed off, grumbling about useless orphans. By noon, Umuoha was full of Mama Nkechi's story. Some called Amara foolish, others whispered of spirits. Michael, back from the market, heard the talk but laughed. "Let her do her nonsense," he said, shaking his money bag. "My wealth is bigger than rumors." That night, as Amara slept, a scratching noise came from the storehouse. By morning, rats had eaten all his yam, leaving only dust and scratches. Michael stood in his storehouse, staring at the torn yam sacks. Rats had chewed everything, leaving nothing but mess. His face turned red as he shouted for his workers. "How did this happen?" he yelled. Joy pointed at Amara, who was sweeping nearby. "It's her. That girl's strange ways brought this trouble." Amara said nothing, her broom moving steady. Michael, still proud, waved his wife away. "My store will fill again. She's just a hungry girl, not a witch." He counted his few coins, sure his money would hold. That evening, he planned a big party to show Umuoha his power. The tables were full with yam, pepper soup, and palm wine, a show of plenty. Amara served quietly, her thin body moving through the crowd. But as Michael bragged, a guest coughed, spitting out his food. "This soup is bad," he shouted. Others spat too, their plates smelling like rot. The party fell apart in shame. Amara slipped away, her leaf-wrapped scraps in hand, going to the forest. As she knelt by the iroko tree, a low hum came from the ground, and her lips showed a small smile. Umuoha whispered about the spoiled party. Guests left Michael's compound, cursing, their fine clothes stained with bad soup. Joy's face burned with shame as she washed pots herself, blaming Amara. "That girl's shadow brings trouble," she hissed. Michael, stubborn, vowed to throw another party to fix his name. But fear touched his heart. Why was his luck turning? That afternoon, Papa Uche, the village priest, came without warning. His stick tapped the ground as he spoke to Michael. A house that starves the innocent will eat its own curse. His eyes rested on Amara, who carried water nearby, her face calm. Joy laughed. Our money comes from our sweat, not her prayers. Papa Uche shook his head and left. That night, Amara went to the iroko tree, burying her scraps with a soft prayer. The light from the roots grew brighter, beating like a heart. In Umuoha, a goat cried and fell dead. Michael's workers found its body, milk gone bad. Amara came back to her hut, her eyes far away, like she saw something nobody else could. What was she feeding in the dark? Umuoha grew scared. Michael's goat wasn't the only loss. Chickens died, feathers scattered like dust. Traders stayed away from his store, talking of curses. Joy's anger boiled over. It's Amara, she screamed, pulling the girl before Michael. She's spoiling our luck. Amara stood quiet, her hands steady. Michael frowned but waved her off. She's nothing. Plan the next party. That night, the youngest son, David, couldn't sleep. Curious, he followed Amara to the forest. Hiding behind a tree, he saw her kneel by the iroko, her prayers mixing with the night. The ground glowed softly, and David's heart jumped. He ran home, bursting into Joy's room. She's praying to strange faces in her hut, he cried. Joy's eyes grew big. At dawn, she marched to Amara's small hut behind the house. Inside, she saw a clay lamp burning before old pictures, strange faces, faded but strong. Burn it, she ordered. The servants paused, but her glare pushed them. As the hut burned, Amara stood watching, her voice soft. Fire can't burn what's already gone. Flames ate Amara's hut, sparks flying into the morning sky. Joy stood proud, arms crossed, as villagers gathered. Amara watched, her face calm, holding her wooden bow tight. Fire can't burn what's already gone, she said again, her voice low. Suddenly, a sharp wind turned, pushing flames to Michael's storehouse. Servants shouted, running with buckets, but the fire moved fast. By sunrise, the storehouse was ashes. Umuoha gasped, whispering of spirits. Michael's face went white, he couldn't take another loss. Joy turned on Amara, yelling, "You did this." Amara looked at her, steady. "I only sweep and serve, madam." That night, she went to the iroko tree, burying her scraps as always. The light from the roots beat stronger, like a drum only she heard. Back in the compound, Michael counted his last coins, his pride breaking. The family ate plain yam, no soup, their plates empty like Amara's always were. David, the youngest, watched her come back, his eyes wide. "What's in the forest?" he whispered to himself, too scared to follow again. Michael's compound, once full of noise, went quiet. His money dried up, traders shunned him, crops died, and his last cow fell dead. The family ate small bread, their plates bare. Amara worked as always, sweeping, washing, her face calm despite their anger. Joy's voice grew loud, blaming Amara for every trouble. "She's cursed us," she told neighbors. But Amara still carried her scraps to the forest each night, her steps sure under the moon. Umuoha whispered, some felt sorry for her, others feared her. David, curious again, told his mother, "She's not eating her food. She buries it." Joy's eyes shone with fear. "I'll catch her myself," she said. That night, she followed Amara, hiding in the bushes. She saw the girl kneel by the iroko tree, saying, "For the forgotten." The ground glowed, and faint voices hummed in the air. Joy's heart beat fast, juju. She stepped forward to shout, but a hand grabbed her shoulder. Papa Uche's voice was low. "Touch her, and your soul will know hunger forever." Joy froze, the forest watching her. Joy ran back to the compound, her face white. Papa Uche's words scared her, but her fear turned to anger. "That girl is killing us," she told Michael, her voice shaking. He frowned, his big shoulders now low. "She's just a maid," he said, but worry ate him. Umuoha now avoided their gate, their talk sharp with shame. Michael's family, once Umuoha's pride, hid from visitors. Amara, though, smiled at passers-by, her eyes far away but kind. The eldest son, John, burned with anger. "She's the cause," he shouted, pointing at Amara as she swept. "Our money's gone because of her." Villagers came, drawn by the noise. Joy pulled Amara before them, yelling, "Confess your juju." Amara knelt, her hands steady. "I only feed what was forgotten," she said softly. The crowd murmured, confused. Papa Uche stepped forward, his stick glowing a little. "Ask her who she feeds," he said. Amara's eyes met his, strong. "Those who once fed them," she whispered. A cold wind blew through the square, and a faint voice called Michael's name from nowhere. The wind got stronger, kicking dust in the village square. The crowd stopped moving as the voice calling Michael's name grew louder, a woman's cry, full of pain. Papa Uche's stick shone brighter, and he lifted it high. "The spirits are talking," he said. "They know this house." Michael's knees shook, his face lost color. Joy held her wrapper tight, her eyes jumping. Amara knelt quietly, her wooden bowl beside her. The villagers whispered, "Who is it?" The voice cried again, naming Michael's shame. "You let me starve," it said. Michael staggered, his hand on his chest. "Mama," he whispered, his voice breaking. The crowd gasped. His late mother, Mary, had died years ago, begging at his gate while he got rich. Joy screamed, "It's Amara's fault." But Papa Uche shook his head. "The girl only feeds what you starved." Amara stood, her voice soft but clear. "I give my food to spirits of the forgotten, those you pushed away." The ground shook a little, and the iroko tree's light reached the village, small but strong. Michael fell to his knees, tears falling. What had Amara woken under that tree? Michael's tears were the dust as the crowd stood quiet. Mary's voice came again, sharp with pain. "You built riches on my hunger," she cried. The villagers' eyes grew big, some stepping back in fear. Papa Uche's stick glowed stronger, his voice firm. "The spirits don't lie. This house has sown hunger." Joy clutched her chest, her voice loud. "We gave her scraps," she shouted, pointing at Amara. The girl stood calm, her eyes like still water. "Scraps and kindness," she said. "I fed those you forgot, orphans, widows, your own mother." The ground paused, and a faint light came from the forest to the square. John, the eldest, stared at Amara, his anger gone, now fear. "What are you?" he whispered. Papa Uche raised a hand. "Let the spirits show the truth." The air got heavy, and shadows moved around the iroko tree, far away. Amara knelt again, putting her wooden bowl on the ground. A soft hum came, and the light under the tree grew, showing shapes, people, thin and tired. The crowd gasped as one figure stepped out, her face clear. It was Mary. Mary's spirit stood tall, her eyes on Michael. The crowd held their breath, their faces white in the glowing light. "You turned me away," she said, her voice cutting. "I begged at your gate, and you laughed." Michael sobbed, his head low. "Mama, I didn't know," he whispered. Joy clutched her chest, her voice high. "This is juju. Amara did this." But Mary's spirit turned to her, eyes burning. "You starved my memory with your pride." The villagers whispered, some crying, others shaking. Papa Uche stepped forward, his stick raised. "Amara fed what you cursed," he said. "Her kindness woke the spirits." Amara stood, her voice soft but strong. "Every night, I gave my food to those who hungered, Mary, the orphans, the forgotten. They eat through my hands." The iroko tree's light bit brighter, and more spirits came, thin figures, their eyes thankful. The crowd went quiet, amazed. Mary's spirit pointed at Michael. "Your greed starved your blessings." The ground shook, and a crack split the earth near the iroko. Joy screamed, falling back. What would the spirits ask of this house now? The crack in the ground grew wider, and the iroko tree's light covered Umuoha in a strange glow. Mary's spirit stood, her voice soft but heavy. "You built money on our pain," she said to Michael. Now you know our hunger. The crowd gasped as other spirits, orphans, widows, old beggars, came from the light, their eyes on the family. Papa Uche's stick shook, his voice low. The spirits have spoken. For 7 nights, you'll feel their hunger. Michael's face broke, his hands trembling. Joy held her children, her voice cracking. We gave her food, she cried. Amara shook her head. You gave me scraps to keep me small. I gave all to keep them alive. The spirits nodded, fading back into the light. The crowd whispered, some kneeling in wonder. John, the eldest, stared at Amara, his anger gone, now fear. What are you? He asked again. Amara's eyes were calm. Just a servant who feeds the forgotten. That night, as Amara went back to her mat, the iroko's light dimmed, but the air felt heavy. The family's food turned to ash in their mouths. The first night of the spirit's curse was hard. Michael lifted a piece of yam, but it turned to ash. Joy sipped water, spitting out dust. The children cried, their bellies empty. Their eyes turned to Amara, who slept quietly on her mat. She's done this. Joy hissed, but fear stopped her words. Umuoha watched, whispering of the spirit's anger. By morning, Michael's hands shook as he tried to buy food, but traders turned away, their eyes cold. The family's pride was breaking like their plates. David, the youngest, crept to Amara's side. Why do you feed the spirits? He asked, his voice small. Amara smiled a little. Because nobody else did. That night, she went to the iroko tree, burying her scraps. The light glowed, and faint voices thanked her. Back in the compound, Michael dreamt of his mother, her voice sharp, you starved me. He woke sweating, his belly twisting. Joy prayed for the curse to stop, her voice weak. David crept to the forest, watching Amara's prayers from afar. The light warmed his face, and he felt no hunger. 6 nights left, what would break first, their bodies or their hearts? On the second night, the family's hunger grew worse. Michael chewed food that turned to ash, Joy's soup tasted like sand. The children whimpered, their bellies empty. Umuoha shunned the compound, doors closed tight. Amara swept the yard, her face calm. John glared at her, his voice low. End this curse. Amara met his eyes. I only fed the hungry. You starved them. That night, she knelt by the iroko tree, her scraps glowing as she buried them. The light shone, and a spirit child appeared, eyes thankful. Thank you, it whispered, fading. Michael, sleepless, remembered his mother's last days, her weak hands begging at his gate. Guilt hit his chest. Joy tried to cook, but the fire died. The family sat quiet, their plates empty. David crept to the forest, watching Amara. The light warmed him, and he felt peace. Back home, he whispered to his brother, she's not cursing us. She's saving someone. John laughed, but doubt touched his eyes. The spirits' voices hummed louder, calling the family's names. 5 nights remained. Would they learn, or would hunger eat them? The ground shook softly, waiting. The 3rd night brought no rest. Michael's family stared at plates of ash. Joy's palm wine burned like dust. The children's eyes were dull, their cries weak. Amara swept the compound, her steps light, her face calm. Michael watched her, his pride breaking. What do you want from us? He muttered. Amara paused, her voice soft. To remember those you forgot. That night, she knelt by the iroko tree, burying her scraps. The light blazed, and a spirit widow appeared, her voice warm. Your kindness feeds us all, she said, fading. Michael dreamt again, his mother's face, her voice sharp, learn from her. He woke, tears falling. Joy prayed in the dark, her words shaking. David crept to Amara's mat. Who are the spirits? He asked. Those who love this house, she whispered. The boy's eyes grew big. Back at the table, John stared at his ashen food, his anger fading. The spirit's hum grew louder, and the ground shook a little. 4 nights left, would the family see the truth? The iroko's light reached the compound, faint but strong, like a call they couldn't ignore. On the fourth night, hunger dug deep into Michael's face. His family's plates held only ash, their water was dust. Joy's prayers grew loud, her voice breaking. The children lay quiet, too weak to move. Amara swept the yard, her eyes steady, her bow ready. John approached her, his voice soft. "Why don't you curse us?" Amara smiled faintly. "Kindness is my strength, not my curse." That night, she went to the iroko tree, burying her scraps. The light glowed, and a spirit elder appeared, his voice deep. "You feed what they starved," he said, vanishing. Michael dreamt of Mary, her eyes soft now. "Learn from her," she whispered. He woke, tears falling. Joy knelt in the dark, praying where Amara once prayed. Her words were clumsy, but her heart changed. David watched Amara's path to the forest. The light warmed him, and he felt peace. Back home, he told John, "She's not our enemy." The eldest nodded slowly, shame in his eyes. The spirits' voices grew clearer, calling for truth. Umuoha watched, sensing a change. 3 nights remained, would the family bend or break? The 5th night pressed harder. Michael's family grew thin, their plates ash, their throats dry. Joy's prayers were desperate, her voice rough. The children barely stirred, their breath slow. Amara walked quietly, her face like moonlight. John watched her, his fists loose. "Can you stop this?" he asked. Amara shook her head. "The spirits decide, not me." That night, she knelt by the iroko tree, her scraps glowing. The light flared, and Mary's spirit appeared, with others, orphans, beggars, all thankful. "You fed my soul," Mary said, her eyes kind. "They must learn." Amara nodded, going back to her mat. Michael dreamt of Mary again, her voice firm, "Feed what you starved." He woke, his heart heavy. Joy joined David at the compound's edge, watching Amara's path. "She's not cursing us," David whispered. Joy nodded, tears falling. John sat alone, his pride gone, staring at his ashen plate. Umuoha whispered of the family's shame, but Papa Uche smiled, knowing the spirits were close. 2 nights remained, would the spirits forgive, or would hunger win? The iroko's light paused, watching. On the 6th night, hunger clawed at Michael's family. Their plates were ash, their bellies empty. Michael's voice broke, calling his mother's name. Joy held her children, her prayers now humble. Amara swept the yard, her eyes calm, her bow ready. John approached her, his voice low. "Can you stop this?" Amara shook her head. "The spirits decide." That night, she went to the iroko tree, her scraps glowing. The light shone bright, and Mary's spirit appeared with others, orphans, widows, all thankful. "Your kindness holds us," they whispered, fading. Michael woke from a dream, Mary's voice clear, "Change, or lose all." He stumbled to the compound, finding Joy praying at Amara's burnt hut. "We were wrong," she whispered. David joined them, his eyes bright. "She feeds love," he said. John nodded, his heart turning. Umuoha watched, feeling a change. The iroko's light grew stronger, touching the compound. 1 night remained, would the spirits show mercy? The air hummed with unseen eyes, waiting. Amara slipped back to her mat, her face calm, as if she knew what was coming. The 7th night was heavy. Michael's family sat in darkness, their plates ash, their water dust. Michael's voice shook, calling Mary's name. Joy held her children, her prayers soft. Umuoha held its breath, fearing the spirit's anger. Amara swept the yard, her face calm, her bow ready. At midnight, thunder broke the sky, shaking the compound. A voice called from the forest, Mary's, soft but clear. "Come," it said. The family stumbled to the iroko tree, led by a glowing light. There stood Amara, shining, holding food. "Eat," she said, "not to fill your belly, but your spirit." They paused, then took the yam and soup, tears falling as they ate. The food stayed good, its taste warm. Michael wept, seeing his mother's face. Joy knelt, begging forgiveness. David hugged Amara, saying, "Thank you." John bowed his head, his pride gone. The light faded, and Amara vanished, leaving her bow behind. Umuoha buzzed with wonder, was she human or more? The spirit's hum softened, but the iroko tree stood tall, watching. Morning came, and the family woke changed. Their plates had food again, simple yam, but good. Michael's eyes were red, his voice low. "We starved our own blessings," he said. Joy nodded, her pride gone. The children ran to Umuoha, sharing bread with strangers. The compound, once quiet, buzzed with life. Birds sang, and the storehouse filled with yam overnight, like a blessing. Villagers gathered, asking, "Where's Amara?" Michael searched her room, finding only her wooden bowl and a note, "Feed those who can't pay you back." Her bed was empty, her footprints gone. Papa Uche came, his stick glowing softly. "Some angels walk hungry among us," he said, smiling. The family knelt, promising to follow Amara's way. That evening, David gave food to the poor, his heart light. John joined him, his hands gentle now. Joy cooked for orphans, her eyes soft. Michael stood at the gate, giving coins to beggars. Umuoha watched, amazed by their change. But where was Amara? The iroko tree stood quiet, its roots glowing faintly, holding her secret. Years passed, and Umuoha spoke of Amara in low voices. Travelers found a shrine under the iroko tree, where food left at night stayed fresh. Those who ate it saw their crops grow, their homes blessed. Villagers called it the table of the forgotten, leaving food for the spirits Amara fed. Michael's family grew kind, their compound open to all. Orphans ate at their table, widows got yam. Umuoha's market buzzed again. Papa Uche cared for the shrine, his stick always glowing near the iroko. "She taught us," he said, "to feed the unseen." One night, a traveler left yam at the shrine and woke to his sick child healed. Word spread, and more came, their gifts piling high. David, now grown, carved Amara's name on the tree, his eyes wet. "She saved us," he said. John nodded, leading children to feed beggars. Joy prayed daily, her heart light. Michael, older now, stood by the shrine, saying thanks. The light paused, and a soft voice whispered, "Keep feeding." Umuoha promised never to forget. Michael's children grew into kind leaders, their hands open to the poor. John built a school for orphans, naming it after Amara. David traveled villages, sharing food and Amara's story. Joy cooked for the hungry, her proud voice now gentle. Michael, gray-haired, gave his money to widows, his heart full. Umuoha thrived, its fields green, its people together. The iroko shrine became a holy place, its light a guide for travelers. Those who left food found blessings, health, peace, plenty. Papa Uche, now old, smiled at the shrine. "Amara's heart lives here," he said. One evening, a small girl left yam at the shrine, her hands shaking. "For Amara," she whispered. The wind moved, carrying a voice, "Thank you." The girl ran home, her family's crops growing by morning. Umuoha gathered, singing Amara's name, their voices reaching the stars. Michael stood with them, his eyes wet. "She taught us to feed," he said. The iroko's light paused, like it agreed. Umuoha's honor came back, not by money, but by kindness. What lived under the tree? One starry night, the iroko tree glowed brighter than ever. Villagers came, pulled by the light. A figure appeared, a spirit woman in white, holding Amara's hand. "The world remembers those who feed it," she said, her voice like a song. Amara, shining, smiled at the crowd. "Your kindness grows now," she whispered. The figures faded into light, and a seed sprouted where they stood. The crowd knelt, tears falling, their hearts full. Papa Uche raised his stick. "Amara was no ordinary maid," he said. "She carried the Spirit's grace." Michael's family led Umuoha in a feast, sharing food with all. Orphans laughed, widows sang, and beggars ate as equals. The iroko's light softened, but its presence stayed, watching. Travelers spread the tale, and Umuoha became known as the village that feeds. Michael, now weak, sat by the shrine daily, saying thanks. David and John built homes for the poor, their hands strong. Joy taught children to share, her heart healed. The seed grew into a small tree, its leaves shining. Umuoha vowed to feed the forgotten, knowing Amara's spirit watched. The narrator's voice rises, warm and wise, over Umuoha's green fields. Where kindness is held back, hunger is born. Where hands give, destiny grows. Amara, the small maid, fed spirits when nobody else would. Her scraps woke the forgotten, her heart rebuilt Umuoha. Michael's family landlaid that greed starves blessings, but her love saved them. The iroko tree stands, its roots holding Umuoha's soul. Feed the hungry, and your soul will never go empty. Umuoha thrives, its people sharing food, their laughter loud. The iroko sapling grows tall, its leaves catching moonlight. Travelers leave gifts, their lives blessed. Michael's family, once proud, now leads with kindness, their name honored again. Amara's bow sits at the shrine, a sign of her grace. The narrator stops, voice soft. What lesson do you take from this tale? Share it, and let kindness spread. Feed those who can't pay you back, and your destiny will grow. The wind moves, carrying Amara's name, as the iroko's light pulses one last time, sealing Umuoha's promise.